BPod Studios.
Boston's best sports talk. There's an app for that. Download the Sports Hub app for loads of stuff. Absolutely free. Connect with the shows, get podcasts, and more. Get it where you get your apps. Or at 985sportshub.com. One has no idea he's awake.
And it's not much of a surprise.
The other is just realizing what it takes to get up at 4:30.
Do I need to be here?
It's Toucher and Hardy.
Shows you how together this whole operation is.
On 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Oh! I'm listening to the Matthew Perry book on the Audible. And he was on a show with Valerie Bertinelli in 1990 where she was a private eye. And he fell in love with Valerie Bertinelli. She was married to Eddie Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen, Valerie Bertinelli, and Matthew Perry are all hanging out. Eddie gets drunk and passes out. And Valerie Bertinelli and Matthew Perry start making out like nobody's business. But then she never brought it up again. You can watch that pilot of that show on YouTube. A young Matthew Perry. This hour of Toucher and Hardy is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel. That Matthew Perry book, you know what it makes you want to do is smoke. He smoked his entire life, from 12 until he died. And he, when he talks about, he was in rehab for 4 months, and they were trying to get him smoking because he had a colostomy bag, and they had to take the colostomy bag out. And they said that it would scar too much if he continued smoking, so he had to quit opiates and smoking at the same time.
Yikes.
Ooh. And when he talks about when he got home and had the first cigarette, you're like, ooh, wow. I want to have a cigarette right now, but I can't.
No.
Because I got the leukoplakia.
Right.
And that's a dangerous game I'd be playing, you know?
Oh, no.
So I've had to stop. I had to quit smoking. Like a real champ, like a real...
Heroes among us.
Like Tony Robbins type. All right, so I, for years, had heard rumors about David Lee Roth. I never... Except for college, I never lived in a city where Howard Stern was on the radio. I loved Howard Stern's WOR show. Obviously, I was influenced by Howard Stern. I'm not saying that. But I am fascinated that CBS Radio, one of the big corporations, media corporations in the history of the world, said a radio guy, the most successful radio guy of all time, is retiring or moving. What we're going to replace him with is a guy who's never done radio before, as if they held no value. Like, radio doesn't matter. Just give them all the markets in the world. And it ended up being an unmitigated disaster. And people around here are very close to it because David Lee Roth, who took the Howard Stern show in the East, did his audition on WBCN or WZLX at night. And, like, Dan was the producer of it. Our own producer, Dan O'Brien, is responsible and guided David Lee Roth into everything that he ended up doing. Dan was the one who told him.
Hang on. No.
Well, so when I came to Boston, everyone was talking about David Lee Roth. I was really kind of unaware of it. So I went on the internet. I couldn't find anything. I went into the back at WBCN. We had this audio vault of tapes and reel-to-reels and cartridges, and I went through it all. I mean, there's Tubes concerts from, 1969. There's all this stuff. No David Lee Roth to be found, but Hardy, you've rectified that.
I've received an email. Hey, Hardy, you and Fred discussing DLR radio show this morning. Proud to say I listened to all 4 months of that disaster and survived. I'm also excited to share almost the entire archive, minus select installments where Dave was fighting CBS management. He sent me a link to the entire David Lee Roth catalog, sorted by date, hour, everything.
Oh, my God.
MP3s. He also has his own YouTube channel where he uploaded his favorite segment, which we will get to at some point. But I went down the rabbit hole this last night and listened here and there to different shows, trying to remember when I heard him do some of my favorite things that he did, like this segment where he said, "Let's talk about abortion. Where do you land? I think it's wrong. Agree or disagree?" And then when he give out the phone number, I mean, he just didn't know. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know how to do it. But I settled on this, Fred, because the story goes from people who actually have told me themselves and from other people who just witnessed it, his first day on the air, I believe it was January 3rd. he went on at 6 a.m., and a lot of people were in the building to make sure that, technically it went all right, including our program director at the time, who at one point somebody walked by his office an hour or two into the show and just saw him with his head in his hands, realizing that this was probably the beginning of the end.
Yeah, this is something that is close to $1 billion enterprise. And they've handed the keys over to someone who's never done it before. It's like giving a plane to a guy, to a child.
So this is the big launch. They had billboards all over this market, every market that he was in. David Lee Roth, a huge promotional push. It finally goes on the air, 6 a.m., day one, show number one. You have the first 5 minutes there, Fred. I don't know how much you can go and listen, but this is unedited. This is how it sounded when David Lee Roth hit the airwaves.
You should have had Wallach pick his music. Doon, 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 doon.
Yeah, need some helicopters in there, too.
Roth, 6 a.m. Where do you start on a gig like this? This is the hottest seat in international radio here. Howard Stern has gone off into the fringe of the American culture. You're breathing him. He's spewing out from the satellite, and we're in the hottest building, broadcasting from New York, Philadelphia, Dallas, Boston, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, West Palm Beach, and Yakima. All right, not Yakima, but Sam. What do you start off with something like this? Everybody feel good this morning?
Oh, yeah.
I feel good. It's a slow start because this is officially still the end of New Year's Eve for most people, I think. What do you eat when you have a hangover? For me, it's cheeseburgers, whatever. But I see here this is.
I thought we said it was bad. What do you eat when you're hungover? 617-779-0985.
Hey, by the way, it's 2 days after New Year's. This is not January 1st. This isn't even January 2nd.
Yeah, but I don't think you've ever really partied. Just have a Xanax and another drink.
January 3rd.
This is when we reported that Super Size Me director Morgan Spurlock has optioned, blah, 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 blah. Have you read...
Huh?
This is unedited. This is how the David Lee Roth experience began.
So you're going to tell me he's going to go... I told you I tried to read his book, Crazy from the Heat, and if anyone should have a great story, it's him. And it will say, like, I was in a farmhouse in Indiana in 1962, backstage at the Omni Arena in Atlanta in 1975. It's like, what happened? He goes off on tangents, you're saying.
Yeah.
Whatever, but I see here this is when we reported that Super Size Me director Morgan Spurlock has optioned, blah, 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 blah. Have you seen the movie where they go Super Size Me, Hutch?
I'm familiar with it, but I get indigestion if I go see movies like that, Dave. So.
Well, yeah, but you eat McDonald's, right?
I eat McDonald's now. My cure for a hangover is actually a Big Mac, a large fries, and a strawberry shake.
See, everybody's got their own vibe there as far as what you're going to eat. For me, it's the 2 cheeseburger Happy Meal supersized with a Coke.
Well, why would you get the Happy Meal if
and by the
you're
way,
supersize it?
Who's Hutch? I heard at least 5 voices in the background when this show began. No introduction. And, I mean, we knew who Hutch was because he was a guy who was here working locally. I think it's ZLX. But nobody else listening in any other market knew who this guy was. No, who are the other people in there? What's going on? What's going on? This is the start of the show.
There you go. Cures me.
The trouble with it is people call in. Everybody's talking about the latest diet. Everybody's talking about what the latest you're going to take when they see on, what is it, Leptopril or Leptoprin or whatever on the television when they go, you only can take this.
This is for the Spanish market. He's speaking because he's not speaking in English.
If you really need to lose a lot of weight, because they know that everybody else is sitting back there, right? Have you taken this stuff?
A minute and 58 seconds in, he's completely lost me, and I'm not kidding. I have no idea what he's talking about anymore.
Never. You've never taken? Have you seen the commercial?
I've seen it. Is that the one? Would someone pay $175 for this diet pill?
Yeah, and that's the one. And they always advertise it as, okay, if you've got 25 pounds or more to lose, then this will be the one that you absolutely want to go for. And All of us, of course, think, I only need to lose 2, 3, 4 pounds, especially before the summertime here. So I'll take a couple.
It's January.
And also, I need to lose 2 pounds? Take a leak.
Of those and, lose it in twice the price half the time, right? Well, that's the way I think here. You got to cut the corner, right? Twice. Some people burn their candle at both ends. Some people burn their candle at the middle. Some people take a flamethrower to their candle, right? Wait, 17 times the light in 1/3 the time. David Lee Roth, first thing in the morning is 6 a.m. What am I doing on the radio? Way, way, way back when I was 7 years old, Uncle Dave, who's actually listening in now down in Boston on 104 BCN, gave me my first stereo when I was 7 years old. And it was Ray Charles. It was on my birthday, October 10th. My pop was in school. We lived in 21 East Alton Court, which was student housing.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Some people burn their candle at both ends. Some people burn their candle at the middle. Some people take a flamethrower to their candle, right?
That's you, Dave. You're taking a flamethrower to not only this radio station, but every radio station that is depending on you to anchor their lineup with this morning show.
You know what? Dave really hurt the business of radio by doing that.
Oh, yes.
Because, the business as a whole. Because you were replacing a guy who's the best, but he was going off into a technology that's proven itself not to be the greatest. I mean, satellite radio didn't redefine radio by any stretch of the imagination, unless you consider Eddie Trunk from 3 to 5 to be unbelievable.
Except all of the predictions that both mediums, terrestrial radio and satellite radio, would be gone in 5 years. They're both still around, and satellite radio maybe was a little ahead of the curve by saying, people aren't going to pay for radio like they wouldn't pay for cable or subscription services.
It didn't fit. No, what I'm saying is it didn't fail. But what I'm saying is that it was a new medium that people didn't have. At the time, they didn't. And Stern was a great hire for Sirius or whoever the hell hired him. But, it made the company. But you're losing that guy. And if you just would have put someone in New York, that was at least capable, just a little capable, had done it before. If you put Corolla in there, but just why did you have to put a syndicated guy right away? I mean, that's an awful lot of responsibility. You got New York, Boston, Philadelphia. I mean, that's too much. I think he was on Detroit. No, that might have been Rover.
That was Rover, yeah.
But who failed too, because you took a guy from Cleveland and immediately gave him every big city in provincial markets like Detroit. You're not gonna do well there. Stern didn't do well in Detroit. You know that. Stern didn't. That was the one market he couldn't do well in. One of the markets he couldn't do well in because they.
Okay.
But why would you give someone that much responsibility right away? Why wouldn't you just let a guy from Philadelphia be the guy in Philadelphia? Or a guy be the guy in New York?
Right. For all the boasting that radio does about being live and local, why would you immediately syndicate some person who has no locality whatsoever, even though he is telling a delightful story about his father riding a bicycle to school in some city that he lived in 3 minutes into his debut. And that's already, I don't know what you're talking about, and I don't care. And the last thing you want to tell a host as you're listening to the radio is shut the hell up. And 3 minutes in, you want him to shut up.
If I was CBS Radio, I go, who's the biggest star we have? The biggest kid that you believe the most in? Kid meaning anyone, really. But who's the guy that you believe the most in? And they go, all right, well, there's a guy in Philadelphia who I think is unbelievable. And then you go, all right, I'm giving him a 3-year deal, 2 years in a company option. Let's put him on in New York and give him time. And what's the worst thing that could happen? The worst thing that could happen is that he does mediocre in the ratings and then it's over. And then you move on.
But it's still a radio show.
But it's still a radio show that some people are going to like.
Yes.
He has the ability to do it. Now, it might, you hire a carpenter, it might not be the greatest desk of all time, but it's a functional desk that you can write on and sit behind. Instead of just taking a guy who burns the wood in front of you. I want a desk. Oh, really? Well, here's like you said, a flamethrower and a pile of wood. And this is how I'm going to make your desk. So every ear in the world most ears that are ever going to be on this show are on during this amount of time, and you hired a maniac that can't do it.
Hoppin' and boppin' and poppin', baby. With the boss bed for the top of the pop, smash gold with the timely tunes for those with a textured taste. Shut up, Dave. No time to waste.
That would suck if he was playing 17 records, but there's no records to play. He's talking like Wolfman Jack. And it's Wolfman Jack when he's talking up a record, but then no record plays.
Well, there's that track looping in the background constantly, this drone. It's like watching a Christopher Nolan movie.
Stern had to be just so over the moon.
Beside it.
He just
do you
at
think
that
he was
point,
ever happier in his life?
No, because and I bet you that was it Mel Karmazin that was the guy there. Like Mel Karmazin just was like, oh wow.
Yeah.
You know how many subscriptions satellite radio got that day?
Jesus.
You honestly could have put me on in New York. I might not have succeeded. I might not still have the job. I probably wouldn't have, because when was that? That was like, I probably was like 25. I might have just gotten mornings in Atlanta when that happened.
And meanwhile, Stern had teased a bit that they, in addition to promoting satellite radio for the last year that he was on terrestrial radio, he teased one of his best bits ever where they all had a secret, and they said what the secrets were. Somebody had plastic surgery. Somebody, these were like filthy, filthy things. And they said, we'll review or we will reveal what happened to who on our first day on satellite.
See, my point would be that it didn't even matter what Stern did at that point.
Well,
David Lee Roth, just everyone that listened to Stern just went at that point, well, good. Yeah. And I got to imagine if you're like Imus or Opie and Anthony or something, you're like, okay, well now, I mean, you know how much money Opie and Anthony made because of that shenanigans on the air?
Yeah.
I mean, it got me the job in Boston, this failure.
Yes.
So it worked out for me. All right. Adam 12 texted me. He said PTSD. He's having PTSD. Because you knew that BCN was a sinking ship at that point. They couldn't put a local show on BCN. There wasn't anyone in the stable they could have just shoved onto BCN in the morning.
Hardy and Hamilton, we did it for 2 weeks, and we were terrible, but we were better than that.
Oh, no, I can assure you were better than that. Assure you were better than that. It might not have been number one, but it wouldn't have ruined radio. I mean, he ruined radio. Dave Brugler, he does The Beast. He does all the stuff for The Athletic revolving around the NFL draft. Dane.
Yes.
Dane. I mistook my N for a V. Damn it! Forget it. Whatever.
BackstageCountry.com, your online home for all things country music. Award-winning movies often have incredible soundtracks, and many of those have gone on to become country gold. We've picked our top 5 country songs that have been nominated for an Oscar. Text Oscar to 45911 to see if your favorite made the list on BackstageCountry.com. Text Oscar to 45911 and we'll send the link straight to your phone.
In the office, in your car, in your footy pajamas, this is how Boston sports fans start their day.
I bet you're just jealous.
Tuncher and Hardy on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Dane Brugler is a national NFL writer for The Athletic. He covers the NFL draft as well. He does his... He's the main guy at The Athletic about the draft, so I got very excited when I saw that he had his 2024 NFL draft big board. It's not a mock draft. It's the 100 best prospects, regardless of position, regardless of fit with a particular team. He joins us on the Volkswagen Dealers Expert Hotline. Hello, sir.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
We are very, very well, and it's exciting for me because as a longtime New York Jet fan, finally, the Patriots are in Jet situation, and I feel like I'm in a position of strength here where I can relate to the fans finally.
You know exactly how bad things are and how they're going to go.
And I know about getting excited for the draft, and hope is your only friend.
That's right.
All right. So, Dane, you have Caleb Williams ranked number 1, Drake May ranked number 4, Jaden Daniels ranked number 8. I'm going to ask you about... first of all, just ask you why the gap between the particular quarterbacks.
In all honesty, really quarterbacks should have their own bored. It's so hard how do you rank a quarterback with a tackle, in terms of overall impact of what they're going to do at the next level. And so it is tough when you try to piece exactly where these quarterbacks fall. But for me, having them 1, 2, 3, Caleb, Drake, and then Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams to me is just, he has rare awareness, rare instincts, and it allows him to be a playmaker that is just really unique. And he's not a polished player. It's still going to take some time for him to adapt to what the NFL demands, but his package of skills and the way he's wired, I think it just really sets him apart. So Caleb, to me, clear favorite number 1. I'll be very, very surprised if he's not a Chicago Bear here in 2.5 months. And then for the quarterback 2 spot between Drake May and Jane Daniels, I think with May, I think you have a player that's younger. You have a player who is ascending, and I just trust him a little bit more from the pocket and what he's able to do. Jaden Daniels is an exciting player, and it's not an apples-to-apples comparison, but he forces defenses to defend him as if he's Lamar Jackson because he is a true dual-threat guy. And so there's a lot of value in that. Now, he's a little bit, in terms of size, he's leaner than you want, and he's a little bit of a maniac when he runs. Like, he is not afraid. Like, every single time he tucks and runs, he wants to prove how tough he is. And that's great, but in the NFL, you need to preserve your body and just making sure that you're going out there with the same, staying healthy, play in, play out. So with Jaden Daniels, there's some parts to his game that, there's hints of doubt, but at the same time, if I have a top 10 pick, I'm drafting this guy. And so I think the main thing with these teams picking at the top of the draft that fans need to remember that the goal shouldn't be to find the next Patrick Mahomes or find the next Joe Burrow. It's not realistic. The goal should be, okay, who can we draft that's going to be a top 10 quarterback in the league? That should be the goal. Because if you find a top 10 quarterback in the league, you have a shot. You have a chance to win your division, go to the playoffs, and then make a run. And I think with all 3 of these guys, you can talk yourself into, he could be a top 10 quarterback in the league at some point during his rookie contract. So if you need a quarterback in this draft, it's a good year to be picking pretty early.
Okay, so we talk about, their skills. Obviously, with the NFL, you're the face of the franchise. You got to be able to handle that. There's, as you know, so much more that goes into the position than just what they do on the field. It's their leadership ability. It's handling the media. It's everything else. I've heard things about Caleb Williams. I heard yesterday, questions about Drake May's maturity. I don't know anything about Gina Daniels, except he won the Heisman. He's an up-and-comer. What played his way into this position? What about the ability for these guys to be a face of a franchise?
Well, and I promise you, we're going to hear a lot of random stuff the next 2 months. It's just that time of the year where these guys get picked apart and people with no understanding of the perspective, say things. And I think, with Caleb, I think it's easy to misconstrue some of the crying after the Washington game, with his mom. That rubs some people the wrong way. To me, I don't care at all. He's a competitor. He put everything he had into that game, and it didn't turn out in USC's favor. That it shows me he cares. I mean, I don't understand why people are getting upset about something like that. Now some of the GQ article, and Caleb wants to be an entrepreneur and really be a brand, and that type of thing is something that needs to be. There's a conversation about that with teams in terms of, okay, we need to make sure he's all in 100% football. That's his focus, and then the other stuff is the other stuff. Now with Drake May and Jane Daniels, Drake May is obviously a much younger player. He's kind of on the up and up. I have not heard anything from scouts in terms of, the concerns about can he be a true leader. He's never said about that.
Okay, so Dane, sorry, we're losing you there for a second. I think we got you back though. You break down the wide receiver position, and again, this article in The Athletic, it's not a mock draft. It's just ranking all of the players and where you see them going. I was surprised to read this. You have Marvin Harrison Jr. at number 2 and then Malik Neighbors at 3, saying the gap between them isn't all that wide. So are you a little confused by all the conversation being about Marvin Harrison Jr., that no one else has seen, that these two are much closer than what I'm hearing about and what most people are talking about?
Yeah, sorry about that. My AirPods went out on me. Look, if you need like I said about quarterbacks, if you need a quarterback, this is the year to be picking early.
Yeah.
If you need a receiver, this is the year to be picking early because the three guys at the top are really, really different. And look, everything we've heard on Marvin Harrison Jr., everything people have been saying, it's all valid. It's all relative to how he's been playing on the field and how he projects to the NFL. It could be tough to talk about Marvin Harrison Jr. without sounding hyperbolic because he is so special, but I think it's all deserved. And that also speaks to how good Malik Neighbors is, that I don't think there's a huge gap between Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors, because with Malik Neighbors, what's the limitation with him? I just don't see any. You can nitpick him and say, okay, well, he's only 205 pounds, or, he's a guy that, in terms of his routes, he's maybe not the most polished, but he's a good route runner. And he's going to get better and better. He's one of the youngest players in this class. He will not be 21 years old until his first NFL training camp. So I think that when you look at these receivers at the top, Marvin Harrison Jr. deserves all of the pub and all the praise that comes his way. But I also think Malik Neighbors is right there. And one of the biggest things that I look for with quarterbacks and receivers is explosive plays. Can you create those big plays? And this past year, Jane Daniels, he accounted for 90 plays of 20-plus yards. And to put that number in perspective, Joe Burrow, when he had his Heisman-winning national title season a couple of years ago, he had 87 plays of 20-plus yards, and that was in 15 games. Jane Daniels did that in 12. But that also translates to Malik Neighbors because he had more catches of 20-plus yards than any other receiver in college football this past year. So if you're looking for someone with speed, with explosiveness, it can do something after the catch, can get open. Malik Neighbors has all that. Plus, he's only 20 years old and getting better and better. And then throw a room there as well as kind of in most years he'd be wide receiver one. And in this year, a team's going to get a really good player, even though he's the third receiver off the board.
Patriots need a tackle pretty badly, a left tackle really badly. Is this a draft, as we've been led to believe, that is tackle-friendly to someone with an early second-round pick like the Patriots have?
Similar theme, like what we've been saying with quarterbacks and receivers. This is a need. If you have a need for tackle, this is a good year for it. I had 8 offensive linemen in my top 20 of my top 100, and of those 8, 6 are offensive tackles. Now, I don't think any of them are quite on the same level as these receivers in terms of being the true blue chippers, the truly special guys. But there's above average talent, above average prospects, and for me, it starts with Joe Alt. He's a true junior, still young, and it's encouraging where the developments he's made the last 3 years. Because in high school, he was quarterback, tight end. Didn't really make that move to tackle full time until he got to Notre Dame, and the jumps that he has made the last 3 years, really, really impressive. His dad was a Pro Bowl offensive lineman and really groomed him the right way with where he's at in his development. So as a run blocker, as a pass protector, Joe Alt, to me, the top offensive lineman in this draft. And then after that, Olu Fashanu, Penn State, J.C. Latham, Alabama. I mean, there's a lot of good tackles in this group. So for the premium positions, quarterback, receiver, offensive tackle, this is a great year to have a top 10 pick.
Good. Even number 10, you're saying, is a decent pick to have in this year's draft.
The Jets pick number 10, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it'll be interesting to see who falls to the Jets because, you know what, will we see a defensive player off the board in the top 10? I don't know. This is there's not a clear-cut number one defensive prospect in this draft. It could be a corner like Terrion Arnold from Alabama. It could be one of these pass rushers, Dallas Turner from Alabama is a possibility. But more than likely, we see a run on offensive talent, especially those skill guys in the top 10.
All right. Dane Brugler, thank you so much for the time, sir. Everyone go to The Athletic and check out his 2024 NFL Draft Big Board. When does the big thing come out that you do?
The Beast.
The beast. The goal is always first week in April. It's kind of like, whenever we get all the pro days in and it just finally can't, enough's enough and got to release it out into the world. But yeah, it'll be first week in April. It's always the goal.
All right, there you have it. Thank you, Dane. We appreciate you taking the time.
Anytime. Take care, guys.
Thanks,
All
Dane.
right, there
Dane.
you go. When he said Joe Alt's dad was an offensive lineman, I got all excited. I said, was his mom the lady who dated Ron Duguay? Carol Alt?
Oh, yeah.
I told you I had a friend whose mom was just like, I would just let Duguay destroy me.
Yes, you have mentioned
She's just
that
like,
story before.
I love Ron Duguay. She's just like, I love him.
Luscious hair.
And he wasn't even on the Red Wings anymore. And I was just like, who's Ron Duguay? Because his mom was kind of young and not bad looking.
Yeah.
I'm like, who's this Ron Duguay fella?
Wasn't wearing a helmet at the time.
Oh, no.
You see, let the golden locks fly.
Yeah, I mean, but it was more of a perm situation. He kept it under control. It was a nice coif.
Huh.
It wasn't. Don't let people think that it was like a Stephen Belichick situation. It was a nice, like, permed, feathered. Like, you could tell before the game he had a blow dryer.
Oh, yeah, sure.
He was blow drying that thing. Have you ever blow dried your hair once?
Me? Yes.
As a kid, yeah.
Sure.
I used to put sun in the hair and then blow dry blonde.
That's a waste of money. You got to go the Scott Zolak method.
Which is what?
When you're putting your chemicals in your pool, you just shove your hands down into the chlorine bucket or the shock bucket and get them a little bit wet, shove them down in there, and just
crap
rub
your
that
chair.
and rub that in your hair.
And crap your chair.
Maybe that's the reason.
The best way to dye your hair
in
is...
fairness, Freddie crapped his pants. It seeps through the pants and then gets on.
Because he doesn't wear underwear.
That makes it way better.
Yeah, you ask him, you're like, how'd you lose all that weight? Well, I'll tell you, I take lime and I put it in my hair in the summer, and then I'll just go to the bathroom on the chair. And the next thing you know, my hair is real blonde.
Yeah.
All right. Scooby-Doo. All right. So we will be right back. I hope that was an education of how everyone believes the Patriots should take a quarterback at 3. That he didn't mince words.
I really like that breakdown that he does, though, because it's just players. It's not who's going where and trying to predict who's, just like, here are the best football players. And if you still operate under the belief that if you have multiple positions of need, who's the best player on the board? Look at Dane Brugler's list. He makes a compelling case all the way down for just who's the best. Caleb Williams, he says, the best football player on the board, and then it goes down.
And the other thing is you need a quarterback, you need a wide receiver, you need a tackle. 3 very deep positions in the draft.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Well, you stay at 3, and you take the quarterback.
Correct.
All right, so we'll be right back.
BackstageCountry.com, your online home for all things country music. Lainey Wilson is on a roll. She's delivering great music and teaming up with some of country's hottest acts. Text Lainey to 45911 to see which 4 Lainey Wilson collabs have us talking at BackstageCountry.com. Text Lainey to 45911 to get a link to the list sent right to your phone from BackstageCountry.com.
It's the all-new Dodger and Hardy.
Whatever, man.
On 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Hey, we're Dutcher and Hardy. Our show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Hardy, there is commuting issues.
Oh. Okay. Looks like this started 2 hours ago. The Blue Line, Orange Line service currently standing by due to a power problem impacting our stations and signal system. Updates will be provided. Lots of updates since then. Green, Blue, Orange Line service still standing by. That was also 2 hours ago. This is a problem mostly at Haymarket, it looks like.
The entire Haymarket station has been closed for at least the last 15 or 20 minutes. It's pitch black in there, and commuters are being asked to go to Park Street if they want to get on trains. Apparently, this is the worst-case scenario for the morning commute.
What if I need hay?
It's a good question.
Where do I get it?
I don't know.
Well, they're giving you alternate travel options for the Orange Line, but not alternate hay options. Commuter rail service between Forest Hills, Ruggles, Back Bay, and South Station. Commuter rail service between Oak Grove, Malden Center, and North Station. Alternate travel options for the Blue Line, SL3 bus service from the airport to South Station.
Oh, you got to take the bus like some commoner. Oh, man.
I did that Silver Line thing a couple of times for the airport run.
That's not convenient.
It's not my favorite.
No, I think you're.
Where they
The
drop
underground bus, you don't like that underground bus?
where they drop you off is great. The actual drop-off point is very convenient. It's just it's the 2 or 3 changes that you have to make. It's not.
See, the thing is, if I had $30 to my name, but I happened to be traveling, I would spend that $30 on an Uber rather than take the Silver Line to the airport.
I tell you when it was great. When I was living in Roslindale, and I would take like the commuter rail in or even the Orange Line, and I would just going by myself somewhere for 2 days, 3 days, just me, a backpack, don't want to park, and it was, like 40 minutes from my door to walking in the airport. Like, that's pretty good. And if I were to drive, it all depends.
If you took an Uber, it would take you 15 minutes from Roslindale to get to the airport.
It would take you 15 minutes to get to Jamaica Plain. Are you nuts? There's no way.
I've been told.
There's no way. No. It was faster and it was convenient. The further out you go and the more stuff that you have, and if you have multiple people, you're like, okay, well, now that whole airport, that whole public transportation to the airport thing gets less and less less of an option.
Right. All right, so Dan Soder is going to join us at 9 o'clock. I got to ask you about this because I've always felt this way. More is coming out about Grant Williams' time. You'll recall Grant Williams from the Celtics.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
And this is this is from NBA Central, the Dunk Central. People within Dallas Mavericks were turned off by Grant Williams yapping, and he was reportedly not in good shape. This is per ESPN. I would say one of the ways that Grant Williams rubbed people the wrong way, the yapping, obviously that's kind of part of it with him, which is charmingly obnoxious if he's productive, and it's grating when he's not. But he didn't report in good shape, and Grant Williams, not in good shape, is not a good defender. Your experience with Grant Williams, John, as you traveled with the team extensively.
A lot of talking. A lot of, even during
he's like a spaz.
Pre-game, even during pregame, you go out there and you watch him and he's in everybody's business. He's walking around, he's talking to everyone, and I'm sure he sees it as kind of like, I'm a man of the people, I'm a good teammate.
But there's something wrong with him. He's socially awkward.
It's weird in a lot of ways. And I keep going back to when we do Media Day. Last year when we did Media Day, we had Jason Tatum, we had Jaylen Brown in, and we asked him, what's Grant like to be with? And Jason Tatum sat there and told us it takes about 2 years to get used to him. And he wasn't kidding around. There was no playing around. I mean, there was that great hug when Dallas came to town, and I think that was more of a hug. Good to see you. Enjoy your travel to the next city you're going to, not like, boy, I miss you, I wish you were here type of thing. Jaylen Brown, Grant Williams came in and told us, I've had guys to my apartment. We come in for game night. That kind of dovetailed off the Dungeons and Dragons thing we did with him. And we talked to Jaylen Brown about that. And Jaylen Brown had this look on his face like, Grant Williams is a damn liar. I've never been to that man's apartment before in my life. And what that quote said is true. As long as Grant Williams is being productive and helping you win, which he was here for a while, you tolerate all the other stuff. But when he's not and he's overweight and not a good defender, I can totally see how that would be grating.
Wouldn't it be interesting if he was annoying his way out of the NBA? Can you think of another way?
I don't think that's ever happened.
No, I don't either. Or certainly not this publicly. Right. Someone so annoying that they annoy their way out of the NBA, where just sitting quietly would be enough to make you tens of millions of dollars, but he can't control himself. He's such a spaz because there's guys that, fight, guys that break the law, guys that are bad teammates that steal. We've heard everything.
Then you get blackballed out of the league because word gets around about you, but for that stuff.
But for
not
just
for
being
just
annoying.
being incredibly annoying.
Because Grant Williams, I guess, was like a really good student at Tennessee. Not that saying much, but he's by all accounts, like a good person. But he's just so incredibly annoying that he annoyed himself off a team.
Two things. First of all, he was aware, in my opinion, fully aware of what was going on, and his teammates were pissed at him, and he's like, F this. And this may seem like a small thing, but it's something that the Mavericks noticed. He changed his shoes from the Luka Doncic's
Yes.
he was given to the Jason Tatums.
Right.
And, that may seem like, oh, John, that's a really stupid, boring thing. No, it's not.
No, it's not. It's a huge thing.
That stuff is noticed by your teammates. You change the signature shoe of our star to a guy you just played with, F you, get the hell out of here.
And it's also such a passive-aggressive, mealy-mouth thing to do for somebody who is out there at least pretending to be a tough guy, and someone's going to get in your face, I'm going to change my shoes from your shoes to Jason Tatum's shoes. It's like, oh, you child.
Now, he's in Charlotte, where he's from the area. They sent him home, quote-unquote. Apparently, he has been a good soldier.
I wonder if
Charlotte's a terrible team.
I wonder if everyone in Charlotte was like, oh, Jesus, Grant's back. not even the Hornets, just or whatever the hell.
City.
The entire city was like, oh, Jesus. Someone called the guy that complained about me to Rick, the guy in the air that gave Cedric Maxwell Rick's number. Who's the guy that...
Kyle, I forget the guy's last name.
It doesn't matter.
He's still working down there.
Yeah. They cut his show an hour.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Dan Soder is going to join us. He is, I believe, he was best man in Mike McDaniel's wedding, the coach of the Dolphins. He was a big San Francisco's 49ers fan the last time he was here, but I wonder if he's a Dolphins fan now. We'll find all these things out. I like Dan Soder. He did radio, so he's very understanding of what is going on the radio. All right, he'll join us in just a moment.